Welcome back, guys. Thank you for joining us again for another coaching seminar through the EPEC program, the Encouraging Parent Engagement Program. Um, my name is Julian Walker. I'll be administering this next segment, next coaching session. And today we're going to be talking about learning styles and how your children learn and the different sciences behind why they learn and what they take in and how they do it. The reason that this is important for you as a coach, you as a parent, and then also for our teachers and our staff that work in our program is because we need to know how we're reaching each child, and also we need to know how to detect which ways we can reach that child to make it more efficient and more effective when having meaningful encounters with that child, especially doing something like sports, specifically football, basketball, soccer, any of those things. To know how your children learn and pick up information is vital to their matriculation through the program and also the development through the program. So we're gonna just jump right in. Um, Understand this: the stuff that we're learning here is exactly what your teachers are taught when they are supposed to administer, not supposed to, when they are administering instruction to your children. With that being said, this is great for you to know because we have to use it on the field of play as well. So there are three main learning styles that most scientists deal with or most research deals with. I've added one more just based off of my research, and so those styles are visual learners, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners, and also reading and writing learners. So the definition of these are visual learners is someone with a visual learning style. They have a preference for seeing and observe things. This includes like pictures, diagrams, demonstration, displays, handouts, films, flip charts, anything that they can look, presentations, prezzies, PowerPoints, anything that they can see from a distance, and they can take in that information and they can decipher that information and comprehend what is going on, and then not only comprehend it but retain it. That's usually a visual learner. The next one is an auditory learner. This is someone with a preference for information to be transferred through words or through sounds, through things that they can use with their hearing sense. These are usually your more musically inclined people. They hear rhythm, they hear beats, they hear sounds. It's something about that lets them flow, and lets them comprehend what's going on. And this any learning style that you have is all about comprehension. That is it. If we can comprehend and we can retain the information that we comprehend, then that's when we're actually learning. We all can use all three or four of these learning styles, but with those three or four learning styles, which ones are the most effective and which ones actually allow us to retain information is mostly what we're looking for as far as dealing with these children in our program. The last learning style is the kinesthetic learner. Someone with the kinesthetic learning style prefers for physical experience. They like to touch it, they like to hold it, they like to do it, whatever it is they want hands on experience, they want to be able to experience it and physically do it. When they physically do it, or they can relate it or comprehend it in a way that they can contrast that with a movement or something like that, then that's when they're doing their best learning. And so the last one we have is reading and writing learners. Now, the cool thing about learning is there is no one specific way that you only can learn. So for instance, if you're a visual learner, that doesn't mean that you can't learn through auditory stimulus, and if you're a kinesthetic learner, it doesn't mean you can't learn through visual stimulus. So reading and writing learners usually use two of um, these senses, two or three of these senses. It's using the kinesthetic learning style by actually writing down things down, and by the action of writing it down, not only are you touching it, but also you're seeing it again, and then in your head, when you rehearse it, you're also using your auditory learning mechanisms. Also, with reading it, you're visually reading it, and then there's a sequence behind reading that allows you to use your auditory skills to retain information in that way as well. So I love the reading and writing learners. I think that's one of the most key ways when you can connect two or three of these learning styles. It really makes for effective learning. And when you know that your children can connect it, and you can help develop your children to connect the learning style where they can connect two or three of the learning styles together, it makes it really, really efficient, and it allows them to develop in a more rapid pace than say their peers. And so that's our whole goal, is to have them typically developing and have them learning in a way that is most efficient, that holds back the barriers that won't allow them to learn, and that might cause unwarranted behavior. Because once again we learned earlier last week, or the week before at a coaching seminar, that behavior is usually the child telling you something. They're trying to display something to you. And so the same way we look for that is the same way that we need to look for the different learning styles, and how our children are retaining information, how they want to learn information, how they're interested in it. Because if we can find how they're interested in it, we can make it fun for them. And if we make it fun, then if we make learning fun, then it's not really something that they don't want to do. It's always something that they do want to do because it brings joy to them. So making learning fun is always a quote or a saying, a cliche that people have. But this epic really teaches you how to make it fun, and using the platform of sports or arts or anything like that allows you to learn in a way that makes it rememberable. It makes it fun. It makes it meaningful for you. And so that's why we use the platform that we use. Okay, and so the key to actually figuring out which child is which kind of learner and knowing the learning mechanisms is first knowing the cues for the different types of learning styles. So for visual learners, these people usually say some things and use phrases as, well, can you show me? Can we take a look at that? Can I see it again? They can see it from a distance. They can see an example of somebody doing it, and they can kind of go off of it from there. These are also the kind of people that if you write down instructions, if you tell them if you give them instructions by writing it down, they can look at the instructions and comprehend them, then retain them, and go out and do whatever it is that you need them to do, because they retain that information from that kind of learning style. These are also people that work from a list. They work with written directions really, really well. And so that's when you have somebody like that are giving you those cues, know that most likely they are a visual learner. If they ask you to show it to them, if you're playing football, for example, and they ask you to show them a play or show them what they're supposed to do as far as a clipboard or a piece of paper is concerned, then you have a visual learner. The next one is auditory. When you have an auditory learner, these people use phrases such as "tell me," or "can we talk it over? Can we, if it's a chant, can we do that chant again?" These are also people that if you see your child like learning a song or learning a cheer or learning a saying or anything like that, and they can repeat it over and over and over again, or if they're listening to the radio and a song comes on and they know the song and they can sing the song word for word after only hearing it a few times, and know the different breaks of the song, or know the different breaks of a nursery rhyme, or can remember what a character is saying or in a movie or something. Like, if they can remember sequences of words and audios spoken to them or given to them in some kind of way, then you usually have auditory learning. So those kind of people, lecture, they're telling them, just simply telling them what to do, they can figure out the sequence, they can figure out the rhythm of what's going on. These are very rhythmic people. So these are usually people that can probably dance a little bit, or they feel fine expressing themselves in a way that shows off their auditory skills. And the last learner, the last learning style that we're going to talk about, as far as how do you figure it out and how do you recognize that learning style, is the kinesthetic learner. And these children, these people, are usually the ones that are saying, "Can I try this? Can I do it? Let me try." Those kind of things. They really don't understand, or they don't retain it. I'm not gonna say understand. They don't retain it when you say it to them, and they don't really retain it when they visually see it. They have to actually do it to know how it's done. Now, usually when they do it a couple times, they have it down packed and they can repeat it over and over and over again. These go coincide if you have somebody with auditory and a kinesthetic, like your dancers or your singers or your artists or something like that, then that's how one person can really master that skill. If you see a person that can't do a beat and sing at the same time, or keep a rhythm and sing at the same time, These are usually people that are either simply auditory or simply kinesthetic. So it's really, I'm saying all that to say that it's really obvious when it's a kinesthetic learner because they're going to want to put their hands on it. They're going to want to touch it. They're going to draw it. They're going to want to be hands on with that whatever experience that you have. Now, we've kind of talked about combining all these learning styles into one conglomerate of skill sets, and that's when you are really developing your children. When you can massage all of the learning styles and you can teach them all of the learning styles, and basically develop them in all the learning styles and make it to where they can retain the same amount of information from several different sources and several different types of stimuli, then at that point you lower the likelihood of them missing information because they didn't get stimulated in a way that they necessarily were comfortable with. And so what that looks like is, let's say we take football for instance, and one of our engagement events we take football. For visual learning, to teach them a play, you might write the play down in a playbook and you'll show it to them on a clipboard or a piece of paper and they can see that play. Then at the same time, you can tell them exactly what to do. The quarterback, you're going to turn and hand the ball off to this person, and then this person is going to run and that person's going to grab that person's flag, so you can tell it to them. Then at the same time that you're telling it to them, then you showed it to them, then you can actually move out the action. So guiding them throughout the play, teaching them how to do it throughout the play, teaching them the correct steps, the correct movements, all those kind of things. When you do all three of those learning styles, and then on the fourth one that we talked about earlier, if you can if you can develop the reading and writing learning style, so you can have them basically test themselves if they can write it down, if they can read the playbook and know what's going on. And I know it's going to be a difficult task for 3 and 4 year olds, but if they can read something and comprehend what's going on and basically articulate to you what's going on, then at that point you know that true learning is taking place and those developmental skill sets are taking place in your children. And that by itself leads us into the developmental domains that we're going to talk about today. Um, they really go hand in hand this week. We saved the best for last, honestly, because what we're talking about in the developmental domains today are language development and literacy development. So, language development refers to the emerging abilities in receptive and expressive language. This domain also includes the understanding and using of one or more languages. Now, what that means is this: it's several different ways that we can communicate language through body language, through sign language, through verbal language. Um, Energy is several different ways that you can basically communicate with one person, and all language really equals is communication. If you can communicate in an effective way, then your language domains are developing at the right pace and they're on a typically developing scale. So the two things that we want to talk about with language are receptive language and expressive language. Number one, receptive language, the ability to comprehend and retain information in language. So for me to give off a cue and for you to understand the cue is for you to be strong in the receptive language barrier. What that means and what that looks like is this: if I can tell you through a head nod, you'll ask me, can I have something to drink? And I nod my head, yes. I don't say the word yes, but I nod my head. You know through me nodding my head, that means yes. So the ability to pair the nodding of the head, the word yes, and put them together in conjunction with the question that you ask, that is a receptive language skill set. So using different kind of languages to communicate with your children is a great way to develop this domain. And this really, you can use this in anything that you do. You can switch up the different languages that you're speaking through head nods, through gestures, through tone. All these different things can help the children understand different ways of understanding and comprehending information. Being able to retain it is where you really get exclusively into the goals of the language domain. So the next one is expressive language. To be able to say what you want to say goes hand in hand with receiving what other people are saying. So to be able to understand what someone else is saying and then go back and express to them your needs, wants, desires, or whatever it may be in a way, same in the same way or a different way that then they are communicating with you, is really where we get paramount in the development of the language barrier. The language barrier is by far one of the most important developmental domains, especially in the world of Head Start, because this domain literally takes them through their entire life, and then the matriculation through the developmental process through ages and stages as they get older and go into elementary school and go into middle school and into high school. So they will take this with them all throughout their lives. So what that means is we have to do a really good job of developing each one of these children from a language perspective in every way that we possibly can. The second domain that we're going to deal with today, and the last one of the seminar, is the literacy, and literacy knowledge and skills. This refers to the knowledge and skills that lay the foundation for reading, writing, such as understanding basic concepts about books, other printed materials, the alphabet, and letter sound relationships. So what does this really mean? Literacy is basically the ability to write down information, read information, and comprehend. And also, we talk about retention as well. Retain that information, comprehend the information, and have it and be able to articulate it in an expressive way. So, if you kind of get the gist of what's going on, we're using language and literacy as basically a buddy system because all these things are connected. The learning styles are connected to the language and the literacy. The language and literacy are the forefront of the learning style. So learning how to communicate and learning how they communicate and learning how they retain information as far as a literacy standpoint allow you to use the new skills that you learn in detecting the different learning styles of these different children. So basically with literacy, we look for book appreciation, the ability to get excited about reading, the ability to get excited about movies, scripts, characters, plot, settings, those kind of things, and then to detect the different parts of a book, not necessarily knowing the name of them, but to be able to detect, okay, this is the bad guy, this is the good guy, this is the fairy tale ending, this is the beginning. So those kind of things, to be able to detect that at this age is really where you start developing at a high rate. The phonological awareness, basically what that means is words being broken down into syllables and also the smaller pieces. So if you have compound words, if you have multiple syllables in one word, the ability to turtle talk it or to sound it out or to break the different words up. Like say you had race car, instead of just saying race car, to be able to say race car and break those up and understand the meaning behind those two words and how they coincide with one another. And then once they coincide, what they actually mean. That's another really big piece of the literacy development. Alphabet knowledge, and not so much alphabet knowledge, but the print concept behind the alphabet knowledge. So to know A is A is for apple. So to know, basically what I'm saying is to know one, the letter, two, the sound that it makes, and then three, where it fits in conjunction with the societal world around us. And as far as literacy goes, as far as language goes, as far as writing goes, as far as reading goes, to know where that letter fits and how it fits in several different places. This is also where you can start to notice that these children are developing at a really high rate. And then this leads us into the last part of literacy, and this is more of the skills part of it. You have early writing, and what that means is basically using all the concepts that we have, from knowing the characters in the book or getting excited about the book to the phonological awareness, the alphabet knowledge, and the print concepts. If we can put all this together for them to formulate opinions and formulate dissertations about what's going on in their head, the ability to formulate opinions and formulate a sequence of events in order to write whatever they want to write or make a full sentence, knowing that it's a noun and a verb in a sentence. And they'll learn that later on down the road. But to already have that concept of sentence structure and how the tone of the sentence is, and knowing to inflect their voice and deflect their voice whenever the sentence is done or when it's beginning, those kinds of skills are the literal skills that we need, the literacy skills that we need in order for these children to develop at a high rate. We hold our teachers to a high standard, we hold our staffs to a high standard, and we hold our children to a high standard. So we want them developing at the utmost levels at all times. So for us to do that, and then also for us to do that on the field of play, while also doing it in the classroom, is one way that we will set ourselves apart and set our children apart from every other child out there. So with all that being said, we really appreciate you guys tuning in to another coaching seminar. We are really looking forward to seeing you guys again for another week. If there are any questions, feel free to email us or contact us about any of the coaching seminars that we've done so far. And also, if you have any comments, please email those comments as well, and or visit us on Facebook at Epic Changes on Facebook and leave those comments on the timeline or in the direct message. We really appreciate you once again for tuning into another coaching seminar, and you guys have a great week.